As you probably know, Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced is coming relatively soon. And because of that, I stumbled upon this article saying that Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced isn't some cash grab with a cheap code of AI upscaling paint. And I think there is a bigger conversation here that a lot of gaming media doesn't have. When an article opens with "this isn't a cash grab," as far as I'm concerned, it's making a conclusion before people even had a chance to evaluate the product. And that conclusion needs evidence, and simply listing features, that isn't enough. Because remember, more features don't automatically equal more value. One thing publishers have become very good at is marketing through feature lists. And if you read through the article again, you can notice a pattern. If I start listing all these features, it's going to be a huge list. But for example, we are getting better combat, better stealth, better parkour, better AI, 3 naval officers, new hideout, new upgrades, new missions, ziplines, pet monkey, all kinds of shit. And when you look at it this way, it sounds enormous. But if you stop and ask yourself, how much time will I actually spend engaging with each of these features, the picture becomes much less clear. For example, 3 naval officers sounds exciting. But what if each one is just a passive perk? Because congratulations, you just described 3 skill tree nodes. Then you have the hideout, that sounds massive, but if upgrading it just means collecting resources and unlocking percentage bonuses, then it's basically another progression menu. Also, the new story missions sound fantastic, but how many are there exactly? Is this new Blackbeard content 5 hours long or 45 minutes long? You cannot really tell from the article. You could say basically that marketing counts features, but people count experiences, because that's what you get when you're playing the game, and that's the biggest distinction. You can list so many features, and it's going to take some time, but at the end of the day, I as a player, I remember moments. And when I'm thinking about Assassin's Creed Black Flag, I don't remember that it had 4 pistols. I remember other things and feeling that I had when I was experiencing the whole, let's say, sailing, or pirating, or anything along those lines. Other things that I might remember is basically hearing the Leave Her Johnny shanty, Edward's character arc, you know, stuff like that. Those are experiences. And you could add 50 new mechanics, but if none of them create memorable experiences like I said before, then they don't really increase the value that much. Basically, if I get the same feeling playing Assassin's Creed Black Flag and the resynced version, what did resynced version actually accomplish here? Maybe your journey is going to be a bit more smoother, but at the end of the day, it's still going to be the same thing, no matter what you do. And you know what's funny? This feature inflation is happening in almost every AAA game today. Marketing page will say something like over 100 weapons, or 50 collectibles, or upgraded AI, or immersed reversal, or whatever. And it will sound like the biggest game ever made. But when you actually play it, you realize most of these systems barely affect each other. And basically what you're getting is quantity over impact. But you know me, I like to play devil's advocate. Let's assume everything Ubisoft says is true. Now imagine this. According to Ubisoft, the new campaign additions include Blackbeard questline, Steed Bonnet questline, 1 endgame chapter, naval officer missions, and Animus Rifts, whatever the fuck that is. And that's basically almost every piece of new story content listed. Now, let's also assume that it will take around maybe 5 hours. And that's me being very conservative when it comes to, you know, the length of the new content. If you compare that to the game that originally takes around, I don't know, 40-45 hours to finish, you are still replaying roughly around 80% of the same game. So while the amount of development work might have been significant, the amount of new gameplay experienced by returning players may actually be relatively small. And that's a very important distinction. Now, some of you might say that it's either a lazy cash grab or a passion project, but in reality, it's probably usually somewhere in the middle. Also, let's not forget, Ubisoft isn't remaking Black Flag because they suddenly became nostalgic. They are remaking it because Black Flag is arguably the most beloved Assassin's Creed game ever made. And just because of that, they know it will sell. Also, they need a really fast and smooth win, because what they have been dishing for, I don't know, last 5 years or so when it comes to Assassin's Creed, it's not very good, isn't it? Now, that doesn't mean the developers aren't passionate, and it doesn't mean the artists aren't doing incredible work, But it also doesn't mean Ubisoft's primary motivation isn't financial. Because every remake exists because someone in accounting believed it would generate a strong return on investment. And when it comes to Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced, the price matters more than the feature list. You could say this is probably the biggest factor, because Ubisoft will charge for this game $60. And now, ask yourself, if you already own Black Flag, what are you getting for another $60? And quite frankly, this is where the conversation should start. Not look at all these bullet points. Instead, we need to ask ourselves, does this actually feel like a new experience? Because if 80-85% of the campaign is identical, even with smoother combat and prettier graphics, I think many people will naturally question whether that's worth the asking price. Regardless of the situation, I think the most important thing is to first try the game properly and then see what's going on. Because we've seen plenty of games with huge marketing checklists that ended up feeling surprisingly shallow. So until we know how long the new content is for real, how well it's integrated in the original game, and how much the remake changes the overall experience, and obviously combine that with the price of $60, then we will be able to say whether or not this game is a cash grab or not. And that's basically the conversation worth having, because development effort and consumer value are related, but they're not the same thing. A game can require years of work and still leave people wondering whether it offered enough that's genuinely new to earn another purchase. And this is extremely important when it comes to remakes. And that's basically my take on this news. Thanks very much for watching, and as always, like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. And that's it from me, until the next one.